Hello, and thanks for joining us for another episode of The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, where each episode we bring you a fresh and insightful interview featuring one of the film industry's top directors, conducted by one of their peers. You can subscribe to our podcast on Google Play Music, iTunes, Stitcher, or on our SoundCloud page at soundcloud.com/The Director's Cut. And if you're enjoying The Director's Cut, please take a moment to like, share, or comment. We love hearing your feedback. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director Angelina Jolie's new film, First They Killed My Father, A Daughter of Cambodia Remembers. Based on the memoir by Cambodian author and human rights activist Loung Ung, the film recounts the Cambodian genocide of the 1970s through the eyes of a 5-year-old girl as she embarks on a harrowing quest for survival during the Khmer Rouge's 4-year reign of terror. In addition to First They Killed My Father, Ms. Jolie's directorial credits include the feature films By the Sea, Unbroken, and In the Land of Blood and Honey, and the documentary A Place in Time. Following a recent screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Ms. Jolie spoke with director Jeremy Kagan about filming First They Killed My Father. During their conversation, Ms. Jolie discusses the challenges she encountered during the casting process, why she felt it was necessary to shoot in Cambodia, and her approach to shooting the film from the point of view of a 5-year-old character.
And that applause is so well-deserved. It's really a masterful piece of work. Really a masterpiece. Before we talk about it, Angie, you've worked with so many really wonderful directors. What did you learn from them? This is a room filled with directors and associate directors and production managers, and we're all part of that directorial team. And I'm curious, what could you say you, and oftentimes we don't get to talk to each other.
No.
What did you learn?
It means so much to me to be a part of this team because it means so much to me to be a part of that team, filmmaking team, because I haven't had the confidence. I've been slowly trying to learn, and I'm feeling, but it means a lot to be here with all of you. So thank you. You learn something from everybody. And sometimes you learn what not to do because you can feel, because I've been on the other side, and as an actor, I know the things that make me freeze up or the things that make me feel at ease. The sets that feel warm, I believe that sets can be happy and collaborative, and that brings out the best in people, and you can still work very hard. I learned a lot from Michael Winterbottom. He taught me a lot about just the way he stayed so fluid and made sure everybody understands the realities, what's going on. He's very educated in the history if you're doing a real story, but then finding the space to be loose. Everybody teaches you something. So I've been very, very fortunate to be around a lot of great directors.
Did anyone tell you what homework you need to do before you get on the set?
Do they tell you that?
And what homework do you? Let's say if this is the next day, what do you do the night before whatever the next day of shooting is? What do you do?
It's different. It's different, for every film, and especially for ones that you write on, because then you're the one that's sent home with the homework of having to adjust the scene the next day. For this film, it was actually very interesting because, when I was working with Roger Deakins, I was always very I want to impress him with my shot list and try to get, everything I think is right. And on this film, you couldn't really have a shot list. It was going to be her. It was going to be, but then it was going to be, what is she looking at, and what is the scene about? And then it's going to be those things and over those things to her. And so it was more about a list of clues. So, for example, at the checkpoint, it wasn't wide and tight and paw and things. It was, she has to notice that money, colorful plastic things, Western things, pa's going to lie, and somebody in a uniform is going to get taken. But how she looks, when she looks, and what's happening has to just be as organic as possible, and then we have to kind of follow her a little bit.
Well, let's talk about her. Let's talk about casting. Obviously, this is non-acting group, I would assume, although that might be wrong with some of them. What was your process of casting these particular wonderful actors?
Well, first of all, Cambodia is, and I know I love the country, but it is a country full of so many expressive, very talented people. Under the Khmer Rouge, they targeted artists. They killed intellectuals, artists, directors. You'd all be targeted, we all. And so it means so much to them. And they are, for as much as they're private about their past and they don't complain, they don't, talk as much about this, when they have a chance to sing, dance, express, hug, chat, laugh, very, very expressive people. So we had, every audition blew us away. Every time we gave people a chance, so many amazing people to choose from. So it wasn't that there was only one little girl that could do it. There were so many, but this little girl was particularly, I found her so intelligent, and I think that's what reads on film, especially with a child. You can see that she's really thinking, and she's really taking it in, and we had this, I said, tears are not acting, laughing out loud's not acting, none of that's acting. I just want you to listen and just I'll put things around you and you'll feel them and we'll talk, but don't try to do anything. That would be bad. And she started to give more and more. She made the choice.
Did you shoot with her to some degree in sequence? I'm asking this because the tears at that last moment as the explosions are all going off are it's an amazing moment.
That was towards the end. And she had actually figured out, it's going to sound but she did, there was one day where I was watching a scene and it was saying goodbye to the brother and sister. And I saw her cry. And I hadn't really seen that, and I thought, is she okay? Is she really into the scene? What? And then the next take, she cried again, and then the third take, she got emotional, but tears didn't come down. I said, cut, and I ran to her, and I said, that was so amazing, that was the thing. And then she said something in Khmer, and it was translated, and I said, what did she say? And then she said, she's sorry she couldn't do it the exact same way the 3 times because she knows the tears didn't fall. And I thought, oh my God, she's conscious of me cutting a film, or how is this possible that this child is? Yeah, but she was exploring, she was enjoying it. She was kind of she had talked to her mom, and her mom, they talked about thinking about things that make her feel this way or that way, and so she was kind of started to stretch her muscles in what she could do, and what I realized is that, and I think it's for a lot of people, is that when you're emotional, you hold it all in, but if you have to make a sound, it tends to bust out of you. Yes. And so I knew she'd be holding, and so when I knew I asked her to scream some names, I knew that sound would have some effect on her. Same with when she says "pa." If you just kind of have to release a sound, it does something.
In that particular moment near the end, though, I don't think there's any sound that she does admit at this particular moment.
Oh, when it was after. No, she screams for Chu. She screams for her brother and sister, and that got her somewhere. She was there. She was thinking. She was feeling. She was in it. It went a while, and then she screamed, and that kind of just brings another level of your being forward. But then she just was overwhelmed and then just came out. I couldn't tell you. There's something very special about her.
There's no question now. But since I assume your language of this is not that strong in these casting sessions, who was there? Was it anybody else besides you? And how could you know as you listened to the sounds?
In casting sessions, they did well. There was a lot of different kids. We worked with NGOs, and we went to schools or orphanages, and sometimes they were with their parents, or sometimes they were with their teachers, or sometimes they were, and they didn't know what they were auditioning for. They thought it was like a school play or some kind of a thing.
And what did you ask them to do?
It was an improv in order to get, since this is very little scripted, so they all had different improvs, and one of the, so there was you're going to, this is about the Khmer Rouge. These are about police that are in the city, and so they catch you and you get in trouble and things happen like this. And so we're going to, give you a cookie, and then you're going to, here's a cookie on the table. See if you want to eat that cookie, or here's something you want to take, or here's a whatever it is, and then you're going to get caught, and then just react how you would react. That's all. We're gonna play a game of different things. So they were all different, and they kind of changed with the different things. And I wasn't there for many of them, but for me, it was also meeting them after. They can do auditions, but then the actors you want to work with, I just spent days. We actually had a pool party, and regularly had pool parties because I felt so bad all week being so tough on these kids. So the most important thing was that as a director on this one, they had to see me just be really goofy all weekend, so they would be really at ease with me all week. But I had to see them play, and they spent, and they became a family. They were stuck together for the weeks before the movie to start to treat each other like family.
When you made the decision to choose her, as you said, there are other girls that could have played the part. Do you remember?
Not as good as her.
But do you remember what it was? I mean, did you, as we often do, did you have callbacks with and see her a number of times before you said, I know?
Yeah, well, I had them, I actually had them go to her home. They had callbacks with different kids where they'd bring their family members in, and then you'd see how they relate to their mom, to their dad, to their brother or sister, see them play, film them when they don't know they're, completely, they're in the waiting room, or they're just tiny little things. More, who are they? Who are they as people? And she had, you could tell she had a really great mom who was with her every day on set, really funny, loving, that you knew would help pull her through it. And that she at home, when we knew it was her, I also just wanted to know a little bit about her, and they went to her, and get her used to a camera, and see how she, even at home, washed her dishes, and her toes hung over the thing, and she did her, just to get to know her.
The father is also a wonderful performance. Who is he?
He is the translator at the International Criminal Court. And he did do a small role in a little French film once. But yeah, he works as a translator. He's amazing. He's an amazing person, and obviously very close to these issues.
And when you were putting that family together, because it feels like a family, there was time that they did spend together, and so that...
Yeah, and they'd, the parents of the kids or the guardians of the kids would kind of stay over there, and then the ma and pa with the kids would spend the day with them. They'd wipe their mouth, they'd get them ready for the pool, they'd act as a family with the parents kind of staying back and saying it's okay. But it's very Cambodian, it's a very tight cultural family, so you can kind of, the whole community is a family, so it can work that way very nicely.
Were there parts for you that were real challenges besides these? Where it said, I'm having trouble finding someone to play this part, or was that not an issue?
It wasn't as much that. The hardest thing, I think, was the Khmer Rouge. Getting people to be the Khmer Rouge, how to train them to be the Khmer Rouge, to put those to be in a country that hardly talks about this situation, and have people putting on these uniforms and talking and learning and screaming and doing the rants and getting the Pol Pot book out and getting the propaganda back out. Actually felt almost really uncomfortable to even have little kids screaming the propaganda and putting it back into a country. So it so that was tense, but really the thing with this film is it's not my film, and this as filmmakers, but this one really isn't. It's not my story, it's not my life, it's not my film. I was there to make it possible, but I listened and I stepped back a lot, and every single crew member, every single person that's Cambodian on this film was affected by this war. And so it was so humbling to be with people who were there walking this walk in the Exodus because it was the way to pay respect to the mother or father that was murdered during the war. And so just to be in that environment where you're just wanting to make sure everybody's ready. We had a therapist on set every day. We had a lot of people having night terrors, post-traumatic stress disorder. Everything came back for a lot of people, but I believe it was cathartic, and they held together. But that was what was hard. You knew that there would be scenes where people would would have a really bad, really difficult time.
And because you know that they are reliving this world, and then one of the issues that we all recognize as filmmakers, particularly if we go to a place that's not ours, we go in, we do what we do, we take what we take, and then we leave. And the effect that we can have sometimes can be overwhelming. And clearly you were dealing with this even day by day.
Mm-hmm. We had everybody. We had a lot of blessings. We had, I think we had monks on set. Every time I got nervous, I had a blessing. But we had spirit houses also everywhere. So wherever, and there was something really beautiful. There's something that happened one night. We did this. There was a night with the kids and the explosion when the bomb goes off on the tree, the shrapnel, and there's children, and we have very little minute hours, and I'm directing the thing, and you want to get moving, and we've got to get this thing, and it's a big action thing. You're trying to explain everything. You're so focused on that. You blow the tree up, and I don't like it. It doesn't. And somebody said to me, somebody heard children crying in the forest. And I said, what are you talking about? Count the kids. Where are the kids? And we don't have enough lights to flood this. We only have like 2 lights. We don't have enough electricity. We're in the middle of the jungle. We have to count the kids. We have to stop everything. And as we were doing that, kids are there. Somebody else heard it. And then Rithi, our producer, came up to me and he said, it's the spirits of the forest. Cambodians are very superstitious. This is land where people were murdered. And we're Buddhist, and that is a live thing that you're blowing up. And people are feeling emotional about it. And I said, oh, okay, help me, what should I do, what do we do, how do I? And they said, you need to pray. We need to take the time to pray and acknowledge what we're taking. And so we got incense and water and things, and we stopped, and everybody stopped, and I got on my knees, and we thought about this and prayed to this tree, and then we moved on with the night. Everything went just beautifully, and everybody was calm, and what that taught all of us, what that taught, what that says about what we do, and what that reminded us all of, and that's one example of many, many days we had situations like that where we would stop and remember what we're doing and what we're taking, and just be very humbled by the situation and learn from it. So I'm very grateful to have had such an experience. It's a good lesson for all of us. Yeah. Really good lesson, actually. Be conscious of what we're doing. The spaces that you were in, like where that tree was, you cover an incredible amount of territory. Talk about your process of finding these locations. Well, we were very lucky to, I wouldn't have shot the film if they didn't let us shoot it in Cambodia. We had to get many permits. It's a very sensitive situation to bring this back. But we were able to work with the Apsara authorities. I've worked in country for about 14 years, so we know a lot of the deminers. We know a lot of we swept a lot of areas before we would shoot, because you have to do that and check for mines. Where I have a home, we found 48 and a bunker. So it's very real, but it's such a beautiful country, and I hope you saw that was part of the goal. Yes, I want to show you the experiences, the war, but I also want you to love this country and respect these people and see how beautiful the people, the country. And I think the country knew that we would talk to them about that, about being able to give us the ability to shoot and what that means. But they're also very patient. We had to close down Battambang and close down places, and they're not used to films. They don't, they're very working people who say, this is my shop, you can't close me down for a day. So they were very understanding of what the goal was. Looking at, for example, the last battle, which has got this sort of river that they're crossing, was this something that you'd written? This something that she had experienced that was written in the book? Was this something you found? That is a very specific location that has all kinds of challenges in it. And finding that, or even determining that, can you sort of talk us through how that one was found? Well, it could have been. She had a long journey, and I think, I saw a few sentences about a river, but in my head as director, it was the river. So it became, it's true, but we decided to, so much of it was just editing the book. It's not really, I didn't add as much as I just had to have less. And I thought the river was very dynamic and a way of showing the two different sides and putting her in the middle. And because everything was what she can see, you can't put her, you couldn't put her in the corner because she couldn't see certain things. And we would do that. If you saw our set, you'd think everybody was walking around on their knees all the time trying to figure out like what she could see and if I'm over here and what, and so if she's not right in the center of that river, she's going to miss a lot if she leaves too quick, if she's too low in the water. So that became, a lot of it became, where can we find a place and we found this place that had a spot in the center, and what would it look like, and then how do you bring the Khmer Rouge in around the Vietnamese, and what is the goal and the strategic, as you do when you direct a section, what is this saying, and then how are we going to tell the story of the Vietnamese, that the Vietnamese did win? How do you tell all of the exposition without talking and just giving clues of here the Vietnamese come and they have slightly bigger equipment, and that's all you know, but that's going to tell you the end. Do you know that they got bigger guns? They seem to have more power, and so
when I first watched it, this is just a personal. I didn't know whose side was anybody there, and that was in fact reminding me sort of the classic image of war. Who knows who's on what side and where? Just
children and the women,
and the children in the middle. But setting up a sequence like this, which is really complex and well designed, storyboards, pre-design, previs. What did you do?
We didn't have the money for storyboards. A lot of sketches on napkins and papers in restaurants, and then we did go out. Everybody does these days with your iPhones, and you kind of have random weird shots of you running around, going, "Okay, if I'm here," and then you have your line producer going, "Okay, now you're her," going, and I should get that footage. Actually, some really good embarrassing footage of the.
That's going to be very good. That's going to be good on the DVD and the Blu-ray. You should definitely go for it.
It's really good. So yeah, and working it out, and then bringing them in, and how do you get, who can swim? There's like basic things. You suddenly were like, oh, does anybody know how to swim? Who can swim? Are there snakes in the water? Do we have to blow up little things to move the snakes out of the water before you? And who's the local guy that this is the place he brings his cows through every morning, who's going to be really mad because this is, and you have to respectfully deal with a few different things. And then also there's sensitivity. There was sensitivity with the Vietnamese and the Cambodian and the situation, and being Vietnamese in Cambodia now is sensitive because there was occupation and Vietnamese there. So a lot of Vietnamese don't want to come out as Vietnamese. And it was so lots of different, so the uniforms themselves, the situation itself was bringing up
Do you remember
lots
the
of
time
discussion.
it took to shoot that sequence?
I think we just had I had 2 days on main unit, and they had 2 days on second unit.
I got it.
But I had to be with her, so we had to split it, obviously, you have to shoot her out, and it did help with because a lot was her POV with her hours, to be able to shoot her and then shoot what she sees.
Were there scenes for you that were real challenges? I mean, obviously this is a challenging scene no matter what for anybody, but I'm curious if that's an example of a challenging scene versus actually the scene with the kids and one of their intimate moments. What were the challenging ones for you as a director that you recall this second?
I think it was more before we started shooting, this idea of what was the POV and how to do it where it wouldn't feel like a gimmick, and how to be able to tell the story just from her. So we had days of looking, if this is the little girl and she's looking at, how close is everybody to her? How do we move the camera in this way? And we actually had a day where we thought we were being very clever, and we were being her and we were filming her, and then we said, okay, so now you're looking up at your mom. And so we realized how close we have to be to the other actors and get them looking into camera, or how her arm's going to reach around the camera, so if she reaches for something, or all these different, how do we put hair on the camera, or everything like that. And I thought, we think we got it, but we realized at some point that we were just doing the kind of what she sees, not what she feels. Because really, it's the POV is distracted, or focused, or hesitating, or afraid, and she can't just look because we want her to look over there. She has to look because something draws her to it first. She can't look and then see a bomb. She's going to look when she hears it and catch it after, and all of this kind of stuff. So we were at lunch and we said, oh, this is just, I'm not sure we're getting this. It all looks really strange. And then I said, let's just watch her. Let's just watch what she does. Let's see what she does. And we watched her, and she kind of like, when we weren't telling her to sit and look and do things, she walked over to a tree, and she kind of like looked at the tree, and then she looked at her feet, and she looked at the tree, and then she kicked off her shoes. She put her hand on the tree, and she climbed up the tree, and then looked at us. And we thought, that's it. That's what we have to figure out. We all have to like go home and try to remember what it's like to be 5 years old. We have to like, you have to be in a scene and know that she doesn't care about this scene. If she is way over here looking at something else, or but she won't be forever. So how do we mature that POV? How do we talk about spending a lot of time with the Steadicam operator talking about how she feels? Is she, because that little girl who looks away from blood, is scared, has pigtails, hardly can do, has to be the girl that we believe pulls her brother and sister out of the river and is savvy enough to calculate the war zone and pull herself through it. And you have to somehow just believe she's become that.
That reaction she has to when the young boy gets shot in this last scene was, for me, pretty astounding, because it was absolutely specific and hers, and I have no idea where that came from. You know what I'm talking about.
She's very talented. It's not my directing.
Did you do the Sam Fuller? Did you fire a gun?
No. I don't even remember that moment. I mean, there's just so much of her. You could just pick. There's so many different beautiful reactions, and she would just. There were things going on around her. I mean, the one thing we had to do is you couldn't do her close up and not have to do everything off screen. Every time you were in her close-up, you had to do everything off screen.
So the boy she had to see it.
You couldn't just cheat that. So we really had to keep everything real for her, and that was a lot on the other actors. I mean, the characters playing the parents. There were days where you could hardly see them. They didn't have close-ups, but they had to give and give off camera for her because they had to pull her focus, make her feel very generous. All of the actors.
Let's talk about the fantasy scenes, not the fantasy scenes, but her memory. Well, a couple of them are.
Some of them, food.
How did they evolve? Were they something that you had scripted? Were they things that evolved in the process, or even editorially evolved?
Yeah, all things as we know. So some of them were written out. Some of them we would play with things on the day. We even had a day where, I have so much extra weird footage. I have a whole other kind of movie. That's every time we'd be shooting, some strange thing we'd see with a spider web, and everybody would get on their knees and start playing with we'd flip things upside down we didn't know, but the things that held were there for a reason, and we wanted to make sure that they were really poignant and really symbolic of how her mind was growing and things like that.
The upside down shot in the beginning, I just happened to fall in love. Do you remember how that one happened? I mean, you've got the dancing, the masks.
We just had this. There was also a discussion of, that this film. It was really important to me. 70% of Cambodians are under 30, and my son's 16. I wanted him to understand this film. He's Cambodian, and I wanted to make sure that this film wasn't just made for those of us who love and are very interested in history. I wanted to make it it was 70s, it's a child. I wanted to have that edge and that edit that had a little bit of something that made this different, to absorb it in a different way and keep it very alive. And so every time we were shooting something or playing with something, we would always think that. And so that was part of it. It was, can we do the monkey dance in the middle of this with the Khmer Rouge, and why not? And we found that outfit that morning, and we experimented with something, and then we're playing around in the edit with popping colors and playing with things and what's the child's mind. It's very freeing, isn't it? You get into the mind of a child, and then it's you look at the world very, very differently. So
it sounds like in the editing room, this movie also evolved.
My first cut was about 6 hours, and I liked it, but. You really felt what it was like to be in an exodus. You were just walking and walking and walking, and I thought, good, this makes me go fast. So it's terrible.
That's an enormously delicious amount of time to be able to, and then boy, to make the decisions. Did sometimes you have to ask somebody, help me here because I'm going to let this be 6 hours? Did your editors finally say, Angie?
It was hard. No, it was really hard. We got stuck at like 2:45. We got really, really stuck. We were having so much trouble actually. And there are a few scenes that are missing that are really good scenes and very strong and important for different issues, but they just couldn't. We couldn't ask you for 10 more minutes. So, we kind of felt like we just can't, but it was hard.
Sound design is very powerful in this piece too.
Glenn Freeman.
Did any preconceived, or was this as
Yes.
it? Oh.
No, we talked. I really love sound design. Maybe it's because as an actor, I've seen scenes where I'm in and the music is ahead of me, and I always feel it gets sad before you get sad, and like it's. So
that's very well observed.
So I kind of feel so I don't like to edit with music often. I tend to, I do sometimes, but I think sometimes I almost cheat because I can get too excited about the music and it all works. You use music from some great classic movie and it looks amazing. So I start with sound design, and with this one I really felt we wanted her to have her senses magnified often, and one of the ways to do it was to suddenly enhance sound on occasion and to show you. And then things you didn't notice. We'd really spent a lot of time on what is the dry season, what is the wet season. It's 4 years. But in Cambodia, it doesn't rain. It's very hard to tell that a year's passing. It's wet or it's dry. It sounds like crickets or it doesn't. It's so the sound of the country, and then little things that she would pick up on. And so he's just so wonderful, Glenn, so.
What's this experience for you of when the movie's done and it first gets seen? Where are you?
Well, there's different layers of that. There's the first time Loung Ung saw it, and I think she saw the 4-hour version. And she's so amazing and so, just really, truly an amazing woman who's so generous of spirit and so forgiving that she made it easy. But I was terribly nervous to show her, and then she and I had to show her family, and then she and I were both ridiculous basket cases, kind of running around trying to but it all went beautifully, and they were really receptive, and it was very. The thing that I think is meant so much is that it's not that people say when Cambodian people have seen it, and then we brought it to Cambodia, but when they've seen it, they don't say this is. It doesn't seem to be that this is important or this was heavy. They tend to, they know that it's about love and family, and they know that it's about how amazing their people are in their country. They know that it's not, so it doesn't leave them with, was really, really the goal, that it would not leave them feeling broken, but actually leave them feeling very proud of what they had survived and really feeling like it paid respect to those they lost. And so it would actually be a nice experience for them. And I did find that when we brought it to country, it was, we had the honor of having the king and Queen Mother came out, and they were the king was in exile. And it's just very complicated, the government there, the country. So it's, when we had people who were ex-Khmer Rouge, we had NGOs, we had victims of the war, we had government, we had everybody in the country from different aspects came forward, and we all watched it outside at Angkor Wat. And it was just the most amazing, really, overwhelming experience.
You've honored that country, you've honored the people who went through this horror, and you've honored us by making a phenomenally good movie. Thank you.
Very kind. Thank you. Thank you all very, very much.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. Don't forget, you can check out past episodes of The Director's Cut wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll have a lot more for you in the coming months as awards season approaches, so stay tuned. Also, be sure to subscribe to our podcast to stay up to date on the great discussions we have coming up. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please like, share, and leave us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks again for listening, and have a great week. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.